is a show that focuses on the person behind the brony. I'm your host, Osaka Jack. Please sit back and relax as we talk to this week's guest brony. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Into the Spotlight. This is your host, Osaka Jack, and with me today I have someone from across the pond, technically from me, but it would only be across the Japan Sea and then across the continent of Asia by land, and then across another small sea. Mr. Foalpapers, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not bad. That was a longer introduction than I had planned on doing, but that's all right.
No worries. I'm across the pond from everyone, really.
Wow. Where's your university located at?
Actually, it's not really. It's Birmingham is inland, so there are no ponds within my immediate vicinity. But I am at the University of Birmingham in the UK, which is in the Midlands, sort of.
Right. I was just imagining, since you're across the pond from everyone, including everyone who's not at your university and people in London, there's a pond between you.
Well, my flat is actually located on an island in the middle of this pond, and
Nice.
food gets sent to me by carrier pigeon. No.
That would be a nice vacation, honestly. It'd be a way to
I
get
think
away.
you get a little bit bored of it after a few weeks.
Well, on Twitter, you have a very commanding presence on Twitter.
I wouldn't go that far. I have a presence on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm commanding, I think, is overstating it a little bit. But no, yeah, Twitter. I am on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I kind of started in the fandom.
Is it? How did that start?
Yeah.
How did that come about with Twitter?
Well, it's hard to explain. Well, it's not hard to explain. It's just a long story, but I guess we've got time.
Sure.
Very good friend of mine named Natasha had been telling me for a few months that I should watch this show called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and I was very, very hesitant because it was a show called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And my excuse was that I was busy. It was finals. It was towards the end of my bachelor's degree, and I was needing to pay attention to that. But really, I just didn't want to watch it because I was worried that I wouldn't like it and then would have to tell her that I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of waited for a few months and then finally did watch it, watched the first episode, watched the second episode, watched the third, fourth, fifth. At some point in there, I messaged her and was like, I have a bone to pick with you, Tasha. What have you done to me? The show has no business being this good. It was all downhill from there. But yeah, then I made the Foalpapers Twitter account shortly thereafter, just because I wanted to see who was on Twitter and also excited about the show.
Sure.
And it went from there. It was very early days. There weren't a whole lot of people on Twitter talking about the show, and most of the cast and crew hadn't joined yet either. So this was back before the explosion. Right now, I mean, now it's huge. There are all the cast and crew are on it. All the artists are on it. It's been amazing watching that.
Yeah, I've just been on Twitter since May, and just the difference between May and now is astounding to me.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how much earlier you joined.
It would have been early April of 2011, I think.
All right, so
because I've got it written down somewhere. The anniversary is coming up.
All right, so a full year ahead of me then.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We won't hold that against you. It's not a competition, I don't think.
Thank goodness, because you are just trouncing me in number of tweets.
No, I tweet too much. I tweet way too much. It's addictive, though. It really is.
Oh yeah, I know. At first it seems like, why would I do this? 140 characters? Who cares? And then you start doing it. Oh, I kind of get it. Can't stop.
Yeah, it forces you to be brief and to kind of express yourself in a more concise manner. Although I'm not good at that, I tend to get going for 6 or 7 or 8 tweets in a row. So the whole 140 character limit doesn't really work. But in theory, it's a good thing. In theory, it would force you to be brief.
Well, I mean, even though you can sometimes do several tweets in a row, even if you would read just one, there is a point contained therein, which is you do have a degree of brevity, just not total brevity, I guess.
Hopefully there's a point. Sometimes there is, well, no, often there is no point to them. Often it's just me being ridiculous or relating something silly that's happened.
Of course. Yeah, that's...
Which I guess is what it's for, really. I mean...
Right, exactly, yes. Yeah, that and finding out if that movie that was just released was any good.
Yes. It's useful for the the movie reviews, I should say.
Yes.
And game reviews too. I'm not even a gamer, but I know from Twitter that SimCity has been having major issues lately because my feed is full of people saying all the problems that are going on
Yep.
with that release. So it's like, hey, I can stay informed about something about which I know nothing because I have this timeline of people who are interested in that, which is really cool. Actually, that's what Twitter is good for.
I think so, yeah.
I'm glad because at the beginning I was just really using it to talk about pony stuff and keeping my other interests and the rest of my life sort of separate and elsewhere.
Sure, sure.
But slowly I kind of let more and more out, and now I think I talk about my academic nonsense more than I talk about my ponies, which I should probably look to that and make sure that
Well,
I adjust the ratio back to where it belongs.
I haven't heard anybody complain, or more specifically, I haven't listened to anybody complain.
That's the other good thing. You can mute people. It's like, no, I have
Yeah.
to listen to the voice of criticism. I can't just ignore them. Uh,
I would agree with you on that. Criticism, yes. I don't think you should block or mute somebody just for criticism. However, there are quite a lot of people who are just trolling for hate, and I've got no time in my life for that anymore.
that's fair, and I've been quite lucky. I seem to have, I mean, knock on wood that it continues to be this way, but I seem to have avoided those people. They don't
Hmm.
tend to come after me, which I hope continues because I wouldn't like to have to deal with that. And watching how other people have had to deal with that, it's a real shame that
Yes.
people get their kicks that way.
Yeah.
Having anything better to do with your time,
Guess
eh,
not. But yeah.
it's sad.
Yes. But I can totally understand. When I started, I had my Twitter account, and then I made separate Pony account a few days later, and I started following people on the Pony account and following more and tweeting more and tweeting more. I think I last checked into the other account in December. I don't.
That's the way it goes. I have other accounts. I have an account in my legal name actually that I was supposed to be
Ah,
using for academic stuff, and it has I think I follow one person on it who I also follow on Foalpapers. So
yeah.
at this point, the two worlds are just sort of collapsed. I can't do anything about it.
Yep. I think that's the final step. When at first you say, "Well, I'm a brony, but I'm only a brony over here." So, and
Uh, I just love the social media guidelines that get issued for conferences and that sort of thing, where they're saying, well, you have to keep your personal and professional life separate because it might come back later, and you don't want to give away too much to future employers. I'm like, oh, that ship has sailed.
yes.
I'm gonna have to just deal with that when it comes because I'm
Mhm.
stuck now.
Yep. Though I think it might be interesting in like 35, 40 years, somebody, you liked ponies? Still do. Got a problem with that?
Luna is best pony. No, get off my lawn, you darn kids. No, no, my supervisors follow me on Twitter. Actually, no, one of them follows me on Twitter. The other one stalks me on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Stalk is not the right word to use. She doesn't follow me, but anytime that I update anything that's sort of related to something she might be interested in commenting on, she will comment on. So clearly, she is keeping an
Interesting.
eye on me, which is yeah, I'm terrified. And I think that's a good thing. I think if you're a student, you should be terrified of your supervisors, or you're doing something wrong, or maybe
Speaking as
that's
a
just me.
teacher, I can partially agree. Yeah. I if I think it goes to the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the quote from Frankenstein: "If I will not be loved, I will be feared."
Secretly, in fact, Twilight is terrified of. No, no, that's not a nice thing to say.
Well, it's absolutely true. I mean, just take a look at Lesson Zero.
That episode's that's actually I think I'm not prepared to say it's my favorite episode, but it's certainly in the top five just because of the relationship dynamic between Celestia and Twilight and the fact that I
Oh,
could
sure.
relate so much to not wanting to disappoint your mentor. That
Exactly.
was my senior year of my bachelor's degree right there. I call my professor who is my supervisor my Princess Celestia. That's how I refer to her. Whereas
Very
my current supervisors are Discord and Trollestia.
nice.
Hope they don't
Little bit
listen to
harder
this.
to please them.
Yes, little bit.
You would actually have
Ah.
to anti-do the work that you did with the previous one to please those. Oh my.
Well, it gets ridiculous. Twitter, Twitter.
Well, it was. We did mention it a little bit, but you are at University of Birmingham, not for undergraduate. You're in the graduate program at this point.
I am doing a master's degree. Yes.
Woohoo!
It, thank you.
Yes.
I don't know how it happened. I think that they were maybe a little bit desperate for people, honestly. But yeah, I am with the Institute of Archaeology and Antiquity, or it's the Institute of Antiquity and Archaeology. I was reversed the last year, but it's the IAA. It's
Right.
the
That's
group that
confusing to have
oversees.
two words exact with the same first letter in an acronym. It
Yeah, it wasn't the best thought out plan, but they oversee classics, which is what I do. So Roman and Greek literature, and then they also talk about archaeology and ancient history and
okay.
uh, Byzantine studies, which Final Draft and Joe Stevens, if they hear this, will yell at me for calling it that because they like to refer to it as late antique. But no, if the department calls it the Byzantine Studies Department, then I'm going to call it that. It's what the people involved in the study are calling it. I'm sorry.
I
Yeah, we fight back and forth about the best. But it's like the argument over who is best pony, who was best
mm,
emperor, what was best historical period.
right.
Academics will argue over anything.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And the less important, well, I mean, correctly pronouncing a Japanese place name is fairly important if you're talking about living there or people living there. But
Yeah.
in my experience, the less important the issue, the more violently they will argue over it.
I would argue that's not necessarily academics. That is more of the human nature. For
Hmm.
example, if you have a married couple or a relationship that has lasted a long time, if there's a major change, I'm changing my job, I think we need to move or something, it will be calmly and rationally discussed. But if it's something minor, like I think we should move the cereal box to the lower shelf, over my grave we will move that cereal box. From what
Yeah,
what I,
I
I
can.
can see, it seems to be that the minor things are the conflicts.
I'm now thinking of friends who have been in, married couples that I know, and yeah, I can. That makes a lot of sense. Hmm.
So I
I've
can
never really thought
understand
about it that way before.
how it's annoying how everyone would fight over uh, minutia, but I honestly believe that's part of our condition as humans.
I was at a seminar last year or late last year where they were talking about fragments an ancient parchment,
Hmm.
and the argument over where a certain fragment fitted into the rest of the manuscript
Yeah.
had been going on about 60 years, back and forth between published papers of these three academics. It was like, it shall fit in here. No, if it makes more sense if it fits in here, because if you look at, well, this technology has just developed, so we can look at it this way, and actually it fits in better there, and the word order and the metrical patterns, and it's like, okay, I can, if cool, this is the argument you want to have, okay, this is the contribution to human knowledge. I'm not going to
So for
begrudge them that.
anybody out there who wishes to troll future archaeologists, when you make a time capsule or something, add a piece of a document from a different
Yes,
book into the
absolutely.
actual book and just laugh.
You will cause no end of grief down the line. So much ink will be spilled over where it's supposed to fit into the book, and no one will dare suggest that it doesn't actually come from the book.
That sounds like the academic version of a long and terrible battle. Ink will be spilled.
Ink will be spilled.
The
Yeah.
rivers will run black with your washed away feces.
Ah, well, the pen is supposed to be mightier than the sword, right? That's what they say.
Indeed. Though I have to say, when somebody is writing Japanese, there are no spaces naturally.
Hmm.
Each character is right next to each other. It is very important to teach kids how to use spaces when they write that out. The pen is mightier than the sword. Pen is mightier than the sword. Please put a space there.
We were going down the dirty road now, are we?
Yeah, I just had to mention it because it was funny to read the first time I read that. Like, well, you've got okay.
There was an image someone tweeted the other day that was something similar. It was a business card, but the kerning was off. So
Oh,
final had become something else if you stick the F and the I too close together. Yeah, it went downhill from there.
yeah.
So it's the importance of spacing, yes, when you are writing out characters in any character set.
I think honestly, one of the most ironic things I've seen in the last 6 months or so was just last week. The esteemed M.A. Larson
Mm.
admitted to, I've lost the name, where the Writers Guild.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and did you see the terrible kerning on his certificate?
I don't think I did actually. I may have only glanced over it because I don't really care about stuff that's going on with Mitt. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't stand the guy, to be honest with you. So he got into the Writers Guild. He's got a book coming out. He's written all these episodes. Yeah, I could take or leave that. Really.
As we're doing this interview right now, Foalpapers' image is a purple button that says, "I believe in M.A. Larson."
You had to point that out, didn't you? Yeah, Pixel Kitties did that. I assume most people know about it, but it was a
Yes.
thing that was going on prior to the finale coming out when there was lots of hubbub. But yeah, MA's a good guy, and I should go back and look at the image he tweeted because if there's fun kerning to be had, I've missed an opportunity to tease him
Kerning
clearly.
and alignment just seem
Oh
really
dear.
off, and the irony of the Writers Guild doing that is hilarious to me.
Well, that they need to associate more with the Printers Guild. Clearly,
Yes, this is
they
true.
don't understand the mechanics of their art form. They only understand the word. Yes.
Well, we can talk about that just a bit. I remember when I first joined Twitter, it seemed that you and M.A. Larson were best buds. I
Uh,
he has spoken with me a little bit since then, but you and he seem like two peas in a pod.
yeah, I honestly, I mean, I don't want to overstate things. He's a good guy. We get on well. We talk a fair amount on
Hmm.
Twitter. It sounds weird putting it that way. I really can't explain what we have a similar outlook, I guess,
Okay,
on a
right.
lot of things, and
Hmm.
that came across in early tweeting with him, and then I got a chance to interview him with Final Draft for Everfree Network
That's right.
or Everfree Radio as it was then,
Yes, yes.
and got to meet him at Midwestria, which he demanded I attend, so I
Hmm.
did because I was
Yes.
quite scared at that point.
And I think an important thing when you mentioned that you had similar outlooks during the entire time of Midwestria, uh, the pictures for you and for he were
Yeah.
switched.
I can't remember whose idea that was, but that was quite fun. That was a good con. It's a shame it's not happening this year, but
Yeah.
2014. So if you're listening to this, go
Mm.
to Midwestria in 2014 because it's a good time.
Yes, absolutely.
I have no problem plugging that convention. That was a very nicely done convention.
Well, another person that fairly recently or comparatively recently has been brought into the Twitterverse under the Foalpapers eye, Triple P.
Oh right, yes, Triple
Yes.
P,
Hmm.
pseudo Pinkie Pie, as I uh, should
Well,
should I
not just you. I
explain?
mean, her title on Twitter has Pseudo Pinkie Pie. So even though that might be your nickname for it, apparently she has adopted it. And
She has adopted it at my demand. Yes.
okay.
Should I talk about
Yeah, yeah. Who
explain?
who is this person?
I mean, I won't call her by name because she's got that.
Of course,
Does
yes.
she actually? I don't know what name she has listed on her account, but she is a colleague of mine, fellow. I say colleague of mine. It sounds much cooler than it actually is. She's a fellow MA student
Right.
doing an MA in ancient history at Birmingham. So we
Ah.
met on the first day of the course,
Hmm.
and we were actually really quite a tight knit group of students. We were
Hmm.
always hanging out and doing dinner and so forth last term and this term. And it slowly trickled out over the first few months
Hmm.
what I was focusing my thesis on
Yes.
and the fact that I was involved in this fandom.
Hmm.
Uh, which amused various people to varying degrees. Uh, and I was tweeting a fair amount. I was just, letting people know what I was doing since people
Hmm.
seem to take a weird interest.
Right.
And eventually she decided, right, well, I'm going to get on Twitter and so I can follow this. And actually, she told me after the fact that after this is December, so
Hmm.
I had mentioned her a few times and I had assigned her this nickname of pseudo Pinkie Pie because
Right.
she was so much like Pinkie Pie in
Hmm.
mannerisms and just general bouncy outlook. And when I explained my thesis over dinner at one point, she was very excited and was like, what ponies are we like? Or I said something about comparing them to ponies, and
Right.
I uh, pulled up a picture of Pinkie Pie on my phone and showed it to her, and she was like, "Oh, that's me! That's me! I've got balloons on my butt." That was the response. So it was all downhill from there. And so she joined Twitter in December,
Hmm.
and I found out later that she had gone back and looked through my tweets to see exactly what I had been saying about her. So
Aha.
thankfully, I had just been entirely complimentary,
Oh yes,
which
very much
of
so.
course you would be because she's nice.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, she's taken to it. I think she has She has more. No, she doesn't. She has people following her who don't follow me. They've found her and assumed she's a brony, even though she hasn't seen a single episode
Oh
of
my.
the show yet. I don't understand how this is 6 months she's known me and she still hasn't watched an episode. She has adopted this pseudonym relating to the show. She chats with people on Twitter about the show. She has to
Oh
put up
yes.
with me
Hmm.
on an almost daily basis. God bless her. Uh, and yet she hasn't watched the show yet. She's holding it over my
Interesting.
head. I think we'll
Right.
get her one of these days.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't want to
Well,
force her into it.
no,
If
no.
she's not interested,
I
she's not interested. But
it's a
there's
personal
this.
thing. I really dislike it when somebody starts bragging about how many they have converted to brony. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's not a religion.
no,
If
it's
somebody
it's
doesn't wish to do it, they shouldn't do it. That's yeah.
Yeah, and I completely respect that. And if she said no, I don't want to watch it. I'm not interested. I would take that and say fine, okay,
Yep.
different tastes.
Right.
But she's pretending she has an interest. I think
Okay.
just to mess with me. I'm not sure. I'm not
Well,
sure what her ploy
I
is here. But she's doing something.
right. I'm not sure, of course, but I might be able to relate to it somewhat. Shocking confession for me. Last week. Oh no, no. Actually, I'm still not done. Um, in December was the first time I ever watched Arrested Development. Uh-huh. This is the response that I get. I knew it was good. I had seen. I'm sorry. I take it back. I had seen one episode um, long ago, and I enjoyed it, but I never sought it out until around last year when I was ordering things from Amazon. It had all 3 seasons for a very low price. I'm like, oh well, sure, add that on, and I got it in October. And it was sitting next to my television for a long time. I said, "Oh, I need to watch that. I need to watch that." And I think at some point it just reached a, I know it's good, but there has been so much hype on the internet and in my own mind about it. Can it really live up to it? And I
Hmm,
was hesitant because I would have been so disappointed if it had not. I'm proud to say that it has. Granted, I haven't
excellent.
finished season 3 yet. I apologize. I've been really busy. But at least the first 2 seasons have totally lived up to the hype, and it has been amazing. But it is possible that what she's doing is it has so much hype that I don't want to ruin it because right now it is still perfect in my mind.
That's understandable. That may be it, or she may be messing with me.
Yeah, that
I'm not
works too.
sure. I'm not going to speculate on her motives. It's entirely up to her whether she watches it or whether she doesn't. But if she does watch it and she enjoys it, I will be very happy.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we all will.
But she is totally Pinkie Pie. That doesn't show. Whether or not she watches the show, she is. I have seen her start bouncing up and down Pinkie Pie style when she is excited and
Nice.
happy. You can't get any more Pinkie than that.
If it is possible, try to get the sound effect of Pinky's boing and make that her Twitter notification sound.
I will mess with my phone and see if I can make that happen. I don't think I do. I don't have a weird text alert for her. Right. As
If
soon as I'm
if
done here.
okay, my suggestion would be to use one of the exasperated Pinky intense shouts from the Wonderbolts Academy episode, where Rainbow Dash is starting to leave and she pulls out the huge megaphone. Don't forget to write.
That would make a great text alert.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I will have some fun with that. I do have one set for other people. I have one set where it's Spike's huge no when Rarity gets pulled down in the Diamond Dogs
Right.
episode. I won't say whose is
I'm gonna
that, but
guess
when I
one of your
receive a text from
supervisors.
that,
I'm gonna guess the supervisor.
no, no,
Oh.
although that would work for him. uh, yeah, ponies have invaded my phone as well. My phone and my laptop. I was in a seminar yesterday. I was yes, yeah,
Mm.
yesterday, and I pulled open my laptop, and one of my colleagues, as I call them, saw my desktop background, which is Twilight, looking all studious, and
Right.
she just giggled at me, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I know, I
Mm.
know.
I actually met up with a brony today.
Oh
He
yeah,
lives in Kyoto, but he doesn't have a phone, which honestly I'm shocked in this day and age. He doesn't have a phone,
wow,
so
that's an accomplishment.
I know. So it was more difficult. We had to plan how we were going to meet, and neither of us had really been to that specific area, so we didn't know what landmarks or whatever to look. We just knew, all right, go to Kyoto Station Central exit, and I said, just look for my bag. And he found me in 2 minutes, he said. It took exactly 2 minutes, and he found me exactly just from that. My bag has Fluttershy in the cell phone pocket and about 30 or 40 of the pony pins all over it.
Excellent.
So, yep, I understand. It's a calling card now.
The first week I got here, I was walking away from, actually, I think it was like the third day I got here. I was walking from my flat to the university and I passed a guy and I did kind of a double take because I looked at his shirt and I think, should I just see what I think I saw? And I walked a couple more steps and he was getting away from me. So I turned and sort of jogged back to him to make sure. And yes, sure enough, it was Final Scratch on his t-shirt. So I gave him a big bro hoof and then we continued on our way. But he is the only brony that I have met in Birmingham because I got lost when I tried to go to a meet one time.
Right, I remember that.
But no, I don't have a whole lot of merch. I have t-shirts, but they're all really subtle.
Right,
So
yeah.
unless you were in the know, I mean, they don't really. Only one of them has a pony on it, and it's the Your Face, Pixel Kitties, We Love Fine one. But the rest of them are all sort of. What does that mean? What University of Canterlot? Is that a real place? Yeah, I got my BA from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know, BA or BS, one of the two.
There is not much separating them. I did English literature, so I do have a BA and BS basically.
Yep.
That's what it amounts to.
Oh, and I think it should be mentioned at some point. Most people listening probably know, but what is your thesis going to be on?
When I figure that out, I'll tell you. No, very loosely, because I'm still in research mode and I'm still working it all out. But it's, how do I explain this? How do I explain it to myself first? Within classics as a discipline, which, as I said, is Greek and Roman literature and philosophy and history thrown in, there is a section of the discipline that deals with how classics is used today.
Okay.
Now, generally speaking, up until about in the 1970s, 1980s, the material that these people looked at was stuff like Shakespeare or Milton or Dante. How is Greek mythology used in these, or what is Shakespeare drawing on when he names his character X, Y, or Z, or what's he doing in Julius Caesar? How does this differ from actual events as recorded by whatever historian? But up in the sort of the 80s, the 90s, very recently, last couple of decades, really, some academics have turned their attention towards the use of classics and Greek mythology and so forth in popular culture. So they've looked at the films of the 50s and 60s, the sort of Spartacus, the sword and sandal genre, and then they've looked at the TV shows that have come out since Gladiator.
Right.
So Spartacus, Blood, and Spartacus Vengeance. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but all of those shows, and 300 is very popular as well.
Sure.
So it's sort of this generation of scholars who do what's called classical receptions. They're reception scholars. Look at the use of this in popular culture and get sneered at by the older set of academics, but don't care.
Right.
And so I decided rather oddly when I first got here, I was looking for a thesis topic, and I had done a little bit of work for panels and just my own interest in the use of Greek mythology in MLP.
Right.
And I decided after conversations with people here and people online that I may as well make that my actual thesis topic. So that was a very roundabout way of explaining that my thesis topic is the use of Greek mythology, specifically the Pegasi myth, in MLP, and why it's relevant that they're doing this.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a great one. Do what you know.
Yeah, I'm sticking to what because I'm a geek. I know popular culture. Obviously, I know MLP fairly well, and I love classics. I love mythology, so I may as well combine them. This is and it's not quite as. I mean, it sounds ridiculous on the surface of it, or possibly I'm the only one who thinks it sounds ridiculous, and other people are actually just treat it seriously. But there are dissertations that have been published on Roman beer manufacturing.
Sure.
There have been dissertation. There's a great article I was tweeting about a month or so ago that was written by my supervisor about the use of classics and Greek and Roman imagery in modern pornography.
There you go.
I'm not sure if I can say that on this show.
We can say the word pornography. Let's just not say some of the titles that were drawn upon.
I will not go into detail. You can draw your own conclusions, but it's it's fair. It really is,
Hmm.
because realistically, anything that deals with Greece and Rome falls under the purview of someone in the classics field. You
Sure,
just have to be kind of uh, uninhibited,
sure.
insane enough to roll with it and actually
Hmm.
pursue it properly.
Yeah, okay. I think that's wonderful. Honestly, I really adhere to the idea of knowledge for knowledge's sake, and it impresses me so much when somebody's able to pursue it, an avenue that somebody else might not have noticed because they like it. And I think it just makes that much of a difference. Somebody, I like this, and well, I guess the pornography one maybe not quite as much. I like this, but if they can show how two things are two different, seemingly different things are very much related, then it's really interesting to listen to.
And I'm trying to. I mean, I'm with you mainly on the knowledge for knowledge sake, but I'm trying to make it practical in a sense, or at
Sure.
least show that there is a certain relevance, because
Right.
that's something that sometimes is lacking in this kind of scholarship. It's saying that these things are connected, but not necessarily demonstrating a relevance, which you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to do, but it's
Sure.
nice if you can.
Yeah.
Um, so my current sort of working idea is that the use of the Pegasi differs so much from how Pegasi are usually used in popular culture,
Very true.
uh, that it reveals something about changing social values, specifically with the depiction of women and heroism, especially in media targeted at children. So it's all kind of still percolating, but
Right. Hmm.
I'm intuiting what direction I want to take it in.
I think
I sound
it's
pretentious when I say that, don't I?
no,
I'm
no, 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 no. I
intuiting what direction I want to take it in. God.
I have used the phrase before, and a lot of people liked it when I used it. Mentally digesting.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
that
we'll go with that.
whenever I watch a good movie or a book or even learn things, I need a time to not think about it and to let it like settle before I revisit it and decide what that actually means to me. And I find that it's you get a lot more inspiration if you give yourself time to think about it without
Hmm.
thinking about it. Let it sit. Let the if you want to go into it, I wouldn't specifically say it, but if you let the subconscious connections connect and then bring it back to the surface.
It does take time. I mean, it's been an interesting process watching the thesis kind of evolve as I've brought in different sources and just taken different turns. It's
Mhm.
yeah, I kind of have a destination in mind, but really it's about the journey, if we're going to put it that way. You kind of figure out your argument as you go, which other people might come into it with
Mhm.
a set argument in mind and then just collect their supporting evidence, but that's not been my approach.
Sure,
And we'll see what happens. It might completely crash and burn. I'm
it's possible.
preparing for the worst, but
It's
we'll
possible.
see. We've got some time left to write the darn thing.
If when you finish, and I'm gonna, and you know what? Forget the if. When you finish, will this be something that can be read by anybody, or will they have to
That
wait for it published?
that's my intent.
Okay.
Since it's for my MA, it has to be made available at least at the university level.
Okay.
They have to put it in international thesis databases and so forth. That's
Right.
just automatic now.
Okay.
I want to make sure rights-wise that I can release it, but if people want to read it, I don't want to be in a position to say no, you cannot read this, especially when I'm soliciting input from people involved in the show and the fandom. I kind
Right.
of view it as it's as much their work as mine.
Right.
So
Right.
I want people to be able to read it if they want to. So I will do what I can to make that happen.
Nice. And if somebody says they want to set the entire thing to music,
They'd have a job. I wasn't planning on writing it in verse. I can try, but it
I
might actually improve it.
at this point it's just a rumor, but I have heard that there was a wonderful opera or operetta, I guess, that the words were actually the U.S. Constitution,
Hmm.
and apparently it was performed quite a long time ago. Constitution's a little old, but apparently it was performed across the country, but no written versions of it still exist. But those who listened to it said it was awe-inspiring and an amazing thing to behold.
Interesting.
So I'm just thinking on that vein. If somebody takes your work and just sets it to music and makes it into an operetta or a rock opera, there we go.
They're welcome to do that, and part of, I mean, that ties in with with reception studies again, and also sort of performance studies, since
Oh,
you have to
yes.
look at what constitutes a text,
Hmm.
in this case, I guess the Constitution, and how you approach that, whether you approach it as words on the page or you approach it as something that has been performed, and then how do you assess that performance when that performance was a moment in time that will never come again, if I can
Yeah.
paraphrase Pinkie
Sure, sure,
Pie.
sure.
There are different approaches you have to take and different methodologies, and it really is quite mind bending when you stand back and
Hmm.
think about all the ways you can look at these things, because you have to set yourself outside of how you would traditionally approach something, which is to say,
Sure.
okay, well, I'm watching a play, or I'm watching a TV show, I'm watching a film, I'm enjoying it.
Hmm.
I've enjoyed it for X, Y. You might think about it a little bit.
Right.
Why did I like this? Well, I liked it for this. But
Hmm.
really nailing it down and interrogating it, or even
Sure.
drawing back and saying, well, what is film? What is performance?
Hmm.
Asking the
Hmm.
bigger questions and then seeing where they take. Yeah,
Sure.
I'm geeking out again. This is what
No,
I do.
I do not have the same educational background as you do, but I think there's a lot of overlap in a lot of the sciences, and drawing from my psychology, that has a lot to do with history effects,
Mm,
which are
absolutely.
something that was not planned in the study, but something that affected the study regardless. The best example was there was a study that was working on how much worse students would do in a very hot room. A simple idea.
Mm.
This was the year that the entire heating system for the whole college went out, and they had the coldest winter in decades. So the whole building was literally freezing or colder for classes, despite everything that they were trying to do. So students would go to class in heavy coats and gloves and scarves, and they could see their breath for the entire time. And then they come to the study, and the study is set in like an 85-degree room, and people did beautifully on the tests.
As you would if you were happy. Yeah, interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was just something that could not have been predicted, that, probably in most times somebody who's really hot would do worse on a test. But at this point they're like, "Oh, I can take off my jacket and I can come in here and just relax and it's so nice." And history effects, something that you're not thinking of, but it is actually affecting how it is being done.
Yeah, I can see how that would tie in. And there's it's one of the sad things about sort of modern education, is that there is such division between the arts and the humanities and the sciences,
Yes,
and
that's true.
that people don't emphasize just how much overlap there is,
Oh yes, absolutely.
and has historically been. I mean, this is a new phenomenon back in the day. I mean,
Hmm.
as more recently as sort of the 1800s,
Hmm.
uh, biology, chemistry, they were all considered natural philosophy. They
Right.
were the practical side of philosophy. I mean,
Sure.
philosophy and science nowadays you wouldn't really throw them together unless you're. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm
Oh
driving
yes,
at?
absolutely, yes. And I
The
can tell you, probably the same for your case, but even just within psychology, you would start to have cognitive psychologists disagreeing with the social psychologists, disagreeing with the uh, clinical psychologists on the best
hmm.
way to do things, and soon it became harder to study the other areas because your professor wasn't one of them and didn't want to talk about it. And,
Yeah, and you see that sort of you see people getting entrenched in their ideas in I mean archaeology is a great example. You have the practical archaeologists who are out in the field, and then you have the people who are much more about theory and what you do when you have the artifacts. And if they're not communicating with each other,
hmm.
then you have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
You are slowing down the progression of your field as a whole, which is why I like classics, because it is very interdisciplinary. You are drawing from the work of a lot of different specialties and
Right.
fields.
Right.
And if you're someone like me, you get to play with completely different fields. You get to play with media studies, or
That's nice.
with you get to bring in queer theory and gender studies, all sorts of
Nice.
great stuff you can bring in. And I can bring in critical theory from my English literature background as well, which is fun. I can write about post-structuralism. I'm getting excited now. I'm bouncing up and down, Pinkie Pie style.
That's how you know it's something that's worth doing, when you get excited about doing it.
Yes,
Arr.
but it's the education system right now is
Mm,
changing rapidly because of the influx of technology, and no one is quite sure how that's going to
yeah.
really shake the foundations of academia.
Oh
And
yeah.
academia will survive, it will evolve, but
Hmm.
if anything good comes out of the shakeup, I'm hoping that it's going to be increased communication between departments and specialties and disciplines that usually historically would not have talked very much. I want
That would be.
reunification between the different branches of human knowledge because we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all
Yes, very true.
looking for answers. That sounds really, again, I'm
What
being
was the one
pretentious.
quote? The light of knowledge does not shine in one place. Oh, what is the exact quote? I've lost it.
I don't recall it, but yeah.
Ah.
You can Google it if you want. Google. The light of,
Yes,
light
yes.
of knowledge is Google. Or Wikipedia. No, I can't say that. In defense of Wikipedia, actually, if there are students listening, Wikipedia is useful. Don't cite it directly, but use it
Yes.
to find
Hmm.
other sources. Use it as a nice starting point if you're unsure of something. I have been told that by tenured academics, so you're allowed. Don't accept different answer. Yeah, I can talk about that sort of nonsense for hours, but I have to confess that a lot of it is oh no.
It's definitely a specialty field. I don't know that everybody would enjoy it. I enjoy hearing you speak of it because you have a passion for it, and
Well, that's sorry. Go ahead.
I enjoy hearing people speak about what they're passionate about. I really do.
That is the other side of the practicality question when it comes to dealing with pop culture and mythology and Greek stuff in there. It's a really good avenue
Yeah.
to open up the field for people who otherwise wouldn't necessarily be as interested. I mean, everyone. If you say Hercules, everyone knows. Even if they don't know the exact details, they will be
Hmm.
able to identify. Oh, Hercules, right, Greek hero. So it's one of the reasons that courses that a lot of universities are teaching, Greek mythology in popular culture. They will use these as courses to attract people to the discipline who might otherwise have ignored it completely. And it's the gateway drug, if you like,
Right.
to.
Right.
And then you will start learning Attic Greek and Latin, and then you will start reading Herodotus and so forth. That's the idea. We're trying to trap you, really.
Oh, of course. Yes. You will become one of us and enjoy learning.
Well, I say that facetiously, but really, I mean, if
Oh no, I mean I said it as a joke too, but yeah, it's so nice when I have a
classics,
student who starts saying that. I want to study more. I'm so
yes,
proud.
yes, it's a beautiful thing,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to something like classics, which is so often, this well, dusty old books. It's
Hmm.
dry, dreary, sitting in a room chanting Latin. I can't even think of any Latin off the top of my head. Quos quedanda mabutere Catalina patientinos. It's no, it's fun, and it's for everyone. You
Hmm.
don't have to like it. Well, we're back to the MLP thing.
Sure.
You don't have to like it, but
Hmm.
it's yours to give it a shot if you wish to. Don't feel deterred.
Right.
Go ahead and give it a shot. Don't let anyone tell you that it's beyond you or not suitable for you,
Hmm.
because that's that kind of attitude annoys me. That's an older attitude that you still find entrenched in some areas of academia, and
Well,
the sooner
entrenched in
it
just about
disappears, the better.
everywhere there will always be resistance to change, and sometimes that's good. I don't want to change eating and drinking. I like to keep those, but at the same time, yeah,
If you want to learn something,
learn
don't
it.
let anyone tell you that you can't.
Hmm.
You set your own limits on that.
Yep, absolutely. Well, a question that I ask in all of my interviews and
Oh dear.
has yet to be responded to without a pause.
Oh dear.
What would you say is the one line or one scene in all of My Little Pony that defines you as a brony?
See, I knew in the back of my head that you were going to ask this because
Haha.
I've listened to other episodes and you reminded me when we were warming up, but I couldn't
Uh-huh.
remember the exact nature, so I've been trying to think of one, but oh, that's a tough question.
Hmm.
The
Yes.
one line that defines me as a
I
bro.
also accept scene, or occasionally somebody has said a whole episode, which I think that was a little bending the rules, but okay, whatever.
I'm trying to think of a line. I can give you a scene while I'm
Okay.
thinking of a line.
Sure, sure.
I can give you the scene that kind of hooked me and
Hmm.
got me interested in the rest of it, which
Right.
was the scene in the second part of the pilot
Okay.
uh, with Fluttershy and the Manticore.
Yes.
I'm like, hey, hold on, I know this. This is the story of Androcles, only they're using a Pegasus and a Manticore instead of a slave and a lion. Whew, this show actually might have something going for it. So, I mean, I kind of warmed up to it by that point anyway, but
Hmm.
that was the one moment where I was like, okay, yep, I need to watch more of this and find out what's going on. But the one line,
Mm.
probably lesson zero.
Okay.
I know there are going to be ones from before that, but again, I always come back to that episode because I related to it so strongly.
Sure, sure.
Um, Yeah, I would think the line towards the end when Celestia has just descended from on high, and Twilight's like, if you need me, I'll be in Magic Kindergarten for that line there. It's the line that I'm saying is defining me as a brony, and I can't even recall it correctly. But
Hmm.
maybe that's a bad choice. It
I
doesn't, but
don't think it's
that's
a bad choice. It's a good, quick summation of what you feel is the worst thing that's going to happen to you right now.
yeah. Well, that just defines me as paranoid and neurotic about my work. That doesn't define me as a brony. Um, Although it's a nice line. It's a nice moment. I love that episode.
Sure.
Line that defines me as a brony, defines my actual fandom. Oh, that's a really tough question. Oh dear. Oh, you've thrown me for a loop here. I must think of something clever. I must think of something clever. I must do so now.
That seems to
No
be the
pressure
biggest
or
trip up is
anything.
that people say something good, as you've just done. You just did a good scene and a good line, and then like, no, I need something better.
There's got to be something better than that. No. Well, the thing
Everybody
is, I
thinks
can't.
of a different one later, but usually the first response is the one that I like. I like your
I
first
can't.
response.
I can't use that line there because that's not from one of Larson's episodes, and he'll never let me hear the end of it.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we could just
Hmm.
say everything's going to be fine.
Actually, well, that kind of works for my general outlook. No, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna stick with my lesson zero answer
Okay.
until I can think of something better.
All right.
And then if something better comes to me, we'll roll with that. You've stumped me completely. I feel like such a bad brony. I can't even remember any decent dialogue. I'm gonna throw me out of the fandom now. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. It was nice while it lasted.
Yeah, this is why we can't have nice things, Foley. The line is, "Goodbye, girls. If you care to visit, I'll be in Magic Kindergarten back in Canterlot." And it's just the delivery as well makes that because it's just so
Yes.
heartbroken. And
Hmm.
oh, Twilight, she just needs a hug in that moment. I'm now looking through the episode list, trying to think if I can think of anything else. Actually, no, I have thought of one, but it's
Okay.
not a line; it's a scene again.
Okay. All right.
I need to make sure I get it right. So it is from a Larson episode, but
Okay.
coincidentally, I'm not just trying to make sure I stay in his
Sure.
evil books. Where are we? Where is it? It is from the Cutie Mark Chronicles.
Okay.
So that's going to cause issues. That's going to cause drama. Are there people who
Really?
still dislike the CMC?
I
Hasn't
don't know.
everyone kind of warmed to them at this point?
I would hope so. I think that the CMC had an incredibly strong showing in season three.
Oh yeah. Okay, so it's towards the end. Fluttershy Island. Do you realize what this means? All of us had a special connection before we even met. That I think speaks to my general outlook and my
Okay.
that speaks to me quite strongly. But that scene as a whole speaks to me quite strongly because you then have Scootaloo going, "Oh, give me a break," and, and rejecting that kind of sentimentality. But in my mind, I think she shares in that sentimentality. She just can't necessarily admit to it, which says a lot about differing approaches to the fandom.
Sure. Absolutely. Yes. I know quite a few bronies who would do that. Hey, how about a song? No!
But somewhere in their hearts of hearts, they do
Uh-huh.
enjoy that message, or they do resonate with that message.
They can say that they don't want a song, but you know as well as I do which ones sang at Midwestria and which ones did not. By the way, if you do want to
I'm
see some singing, there are videos online on YouTube of M.A. Larson and Foalpapers singing the Spider Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000.
If you're going to bring that up, I need to say, in our defense,
Mm,
it was difficult to read the lyrics on the little
sure.
screen, and we weren't entirely sure. We didn't communicate beforehand who was Flim and who was Flam. So that worked against us. We
Hmm.
could have, and the really bad thing, it was either the previous night or the next night.
Hmm.
The Flim Flam cosplayers went up and absolutely nailed it, just pitch perfect, and we were just sitting there going, "Oh God, we're never going to live this down."
I can tell you, Japanese karaoke is actually very different from the American style. Japanese karaoke is in a small room that you rent out privately, and it's only
Hmm.
you or up to 8 of your friends. So it's different from the karaoke bars that are in America. But I can tell you from a lot of karaoke experience, if a group of 2 people is singing a song badly, it is just as popular as if somebody is singing it perfectly.
I hope that's true, but thank
Yes,
you. I'm
because
I'm mostly over the wounds of Midwestria by now, but my shame will never quite leave me.
well, that was, I believe, Midwestria karaoke was a little bit after becoming popular, wasn't
Oh, you had to bring that up.
it?
You had to bring that up, didn't you? This
You
is
know,
an example of a
I
moment when I should not open my big mouth.
I will compromise. I won't link it right here, and I won't because I do have it on my computer. I must say,
Oh, thanks.
I won't put
Great.
it right here. But if you are decent at searching, there are examples of Foalpapers singing. I was lucky enough to hear one live on when we were co-hosting the charity live stream in the end of December.
Which
And
was that the kittens in bags? Or was that
yes, that was Kittens in Bags.
which is not if you're not familiar with Nash from Everfree Networks, he has this thing about the cuteness of kittens who are getting in and out of bags on the floor.
Yes.
It's a thing with him. It doesn't have anything to do with being mean to cats. It's
No.
quite the opposite. So I just
Yes.
want to make that absolutely clear.
Yes. Yes.
Um, yeah, becoming popular. Should I explain the circumstances at least?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
'Cause, again, as I said,
Because
example
otherwise,
of
people will be looking for your YouTube channel and trying to find you on SoundCloud. And
example of me saying things that I shouldn't on Twitter and getting carried away. I guess I had broken 1,000 followers
Mhm.
and was kind of confused and surprised and shocked
Mm.
and said something to the effect of, very much jokingly,
Mm.
if I ever hit 2,000, I'll record myself singing "Becoming Popular" because. Ironic, becoming popular, and it's 2,000 followers because Twitter popularity is so important. It's not. Um,
Yes, I agree. It's not.
But then it happened a few months later.
Hmm.
Mainly, I think, because there was a bit of a conspiracy going on. I know Sketchy Sounds and Crescendo were very keen on me making a complete expletive
Donkey.
delete of myself, donkey of myself. So they got people following me. So eventually, I did have to, record myself singing, becoming popular, and true to my word, I posted on YouTube, and I have
Yes.
yet to live it down.
Mm.
Someone told me they had it as their ringtone.
Nice. That's interesting. I don't
Not
have it as
nice.
ringtone, but
Uh,
and I know that the character that you've chosen as your OC, for a time, there are actually quite a few pictures out there. I think Nami did a picture of him wearing a crown and
yeah.
having Rarity's cutie mark taped over his.
Which has become a thing in and of itself now, because now I
Yes.
can't really be seen without a big crown thingy on my OC's head.
That is
People like to torment me. This is the only reason I have however many people follow me on Twitter. It's not because they take an interest in my work. It's because they just want to make fun of me, which is fair. I'm okay with that.
oh
If it brings joy to their life, no, it's all in good fun.
yes.
It's all in good fun. And to be honest, I mean, if there's nothing wrong with wanting to rock a big, I can't even say it. There's nothing wrong with wanting to rock a big crown thingy. It takes a
Mhm.
certain type of person to pull off
You have
the
to be
big
named
crown
Tom.
thingy.
You have to be named Tom to rock the crown thingy. Woo!
Ah, that was bad.
Thank you.
The
Thank
bad
you.
puns. That's the other reason. If you're
Yes.
not on Twitter and you're listening to this, join Twitter for the bad puns that get thrown back and forth between you and Stefan Andrews. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad ones. I think actually I just tweeted it today. It just occurred to me. I said now that season 3 is finished and we've heard all of the songs, I think it's safe to say that Daniel Ingram has raised the bar. Raised the bar. One,
One,
two,
two.
three, four.
Yeah, I saw that. I may have face palmed. I'm pretty sure I did. I'll face palm again. And then it got stuck in my head. So thanks for that.
Yes, that was the point.
I've got my guitar now though as well, so I could really,
That's true.
really butcher some music. Not just butcher
Which
the
has
singing, but butcher the
Which honestly, your guitar
whole
has one
thing.
of the most. I mean, that was the biggest coincidence I've seen in a long time. The naming.
Celine?
Yeah. Just, I mean, I tweeted you right after that. That is character that in a game that I've been playing for the last
Oh right, yeah.
60 days or so.
I I I wasn't stalking you, I promise. It was
Oh,
just
nobody knew that. I just saw yours and I'm like, what the? Whoa!
it seemed right for it. I mean, it's a black guitar, so I thought, yeah, well, what's black? Okay, Night. We'll go with that. Okay, so Celine or Luna, and Luna is just too obvious, so we'll go with Celine.
Nice.
That was basically the logic that went into
Oh,
the
yeah.
naming convention. It wasn't. It didn't take me too long.
Hmm. I have to
She
say
looks like a Celine, though.
some of the things that you mentioned, just when you are thinking about how you'd like to relax. Guitar, I can understand. I don't play guitar, but I can understand how relaxing that can be. But another one is your car that you miss.
Oh, I miss my car so
Hmm.
much. I love my car.
It was just a Volkswagen, right?
It's a lime green 2000 Volkswagen Beetle.
Nice.
Manual. Manual transmission. I loved that thing. I got it. It was the car I learned to drive on, actually. I got it back in 2003.
Oh, nice.
Uh, yeah, learned to drive on it, put 100,000 miles on it, and now it is sitting up in Boston in my parents' garage from when I moved from Maryland to Birmingham. They are keeping an eye on it for me, so when I return to
Good.
the States, I will still have it if it still runs.
That's nice. That's nice.
But yeah, I love my car to death.
Oh, yeah.
It's something really relaxing, and I'm not a huge car nut. I mean,
Hmm.
if it's just not really, it's not something I've ever been able to really get into. But
Right.
I understand people who I've got friends who absolutely love cars and are
Oh,
always
yeah.
telling me about the inner mechanics, and it's fascinating stuff. It's just,
Yes.
but I have always just loved driving this particular car, and I
Hmm.
would do sort of long runs between university, my first uni I attended, and my home. It was like an 8 hour drive. This was back in California,
Nice.
so I would have long stretches of completely empty highway late at
Nice.
night that I would just be able to drive along,
Yeah.
one hand on the wheel, other hand on the window,
Nice.
uh, just
I.
letting the air flow through and
Oh, yeah.
blaring music. It's a magnificent moment. Those are the
Mm.
little moments that are just joyous.
My first car that was actually mine is actually the last car I had. Over in Japan, I had a scooter at one point, but that's not the same. But yeah, it
Mm,
was just a 1990 Dodge Caravan. It was a minivan with all the seats except the front two taken out, so I had room to help people move or whatever. And one job, I had to teach at a community college 3 hours away. So I would just drive for 3 hours, teach those four people, and drive back. And it was such a great job just for the drive. I loved it.
freedom.
Yeah, because it was out in the country. So I actually the 3 hour drive, an hour and a half of it was on Route 66.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was
Very cool
really
indeed.
nice.
There's been fan art of my someone.
I have
Um,
seen that.
TR Peel drew is TR Peel on Twitter drew me my OC in my Beetle singing my little Beetle. I love that. That was my icon for a while.
Nice.
People are I love the people in this fandom. They're so generous and talented and silly. They will just pick up on the most ridiculous things and
Hmm.
bang out a piece of artwork for it. It's like, oh, thank you. You guys rock.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, are there any things that you'd like to plug while you're here? Any upcoming projects or?
I could plug Brony Scholars, but the people who've been following this for a while will know about it. But it's a show that I've been developing for Everfree Network that I still have not finished editing the pilot on.
Mm,
Because in my defense, I have been kind of busy with uprooting my entire life to the
yes.
UK and doing an MA. But sooner rather than later, hopefully, I will have this show on Everfree Network, which the idea is to discuss the show and the fandom from various different academic viewpoints. So I can
Hmm.
blather on about classics and mythology for an hour, or then someone can blather on about psychology for an hour
Nice.
and go from there.
Nice. Nice.
That's the general gist,
Hmm.
but when it will materialize, I don't quite know.
Well, I've said it before, but anybody in this fandom, and there's amazing amounts of artistry and work, but anybody who expects their commission to be done rapidly will not get a very good commission.
Fair enough. Yeah, artistry takes time.
Hmm.
It's going to be it's going to be
Absolutely.
the most exciting interview you'll ever hear. No, I'm just bad at time management and have been busy with other things.
Right.
It'll get there. It will eventually get done.
I'm sure
I
people
could
following
plug
on
other
Twitter will be able to know once the thesis is available for all, if it is.
Yes, once I will do my best to make that available for all. And
Hmm.
if I'm attending any conventions or conferences and people wish to have their ear talked off about this kind of
Nice.
rubbish, then I will also be. I'm sure I'll announce it on Twitter.
Nice. Very good.
But no, I'm that's that's what I've got going on. I've got my thesis going on, and I've got my guitar going on,
Hmm.
and Brony Scholars kind of on the side, and yeah, it
That's a
keeps me
busy
busy.
schedule.
Lots of reading,
Hmm.
lots of reading.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, we have been speaking with Foalpapers today. Thank you for coming by. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much for having me.
Yes.
It's been
Everyone,
fun.
this has been Osaka Jack with Into the Spotlight on Everfree Network. We'll catch you next time.
Be excellent.